to be a great comedian, you need to be self-aware. My allegiance is to two things: the truth and what's funny. And what's funny is often true. What I thought was funny was mental health. I thought of it as a joke, but then the truth kicked in.
In what way?
Hassan Phills is a popular Toronto-based comedian known for his engaging storytelling and interactive stand-up performances,
where he regularly comments on cultural nuances and personal experiences.
Money. How did it affect your childhood growing up?
I grew up in government housing. I had this like scarcity mindset.
What don't people understand about life in government housing?
I think the scariest thing is from the moment that you're in, your goal is to move out and get my mother out of here, my family out of here. I grew up in a single parent family with just my mother.
Just the two of you?
Yeah, just my mother and I.
The relationship with your father, does it exist?
We haven't spoken in years.
Does that bother you?
At one point I tried to be like, F that guy, he's not here.
How do you want to show up as a dad? We find it very interesting that the majority of you who watch and listen to this show aren't yet subscribed to our channels across Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It would mean the world to us if you can do us that small kindness. It allows us to continue to bring on amazing guests week after week and continue to provide you with amazing value and content. It's the only thing we'll ever ask of you. If you can hit that follow or subscribe button, it would mean the world to us. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Hassan, you're on a health kick. We were just talking about before we started rolling.
Yes.
Why is that important to you?
Just as like age, you know. I think I'm 30 now, and I'm like, my body is realizing I'm 30. You know, mentally I've been 24. You know, for mad long. But man, gut health is very important. There was a time where I thought I was invincible, so I was gonna eat anything and everything, and now it's kind of like, oh, okay, damn, I got a gut, you know. And it's more so my family's kind of getting on me. My uncle's talking like, oh, you're getting fat, you see it. And again, like my uncle telling me that, I was like, it didn't really piss me off that much. But then some of my friends were like, oh, you're getting a little husky, man. Husky is such an offense, it's a subtle but offensive word, you know.
It's a nice way of saying that you put on a little bit of weight.
Yeah, you're an animal though, you know. Still an animal.
So what does this health journey look like? Well, right now you're fasting for Ramadan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so outside of that, what's the plan? How do you plan to maintain this health kick? Because this is not a trend for you. You're changing your lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, mind you, I'm 2 weeks in, but it's like dietary. Yeah. You know, this is the first time in my life where I think I'm applying discipline in my diet, in my workouts. I like mentorship as well. So like I have like a personal trainer for the first time as well. I like being coached, to be honest. Being coached is great. You know, you're being told what to do. There's like, it's less like, you know, I'm not to say that I don't like the autonomy of going out and doing my own research, but then, yeah, man, you need guidance, man. Guidance is always good. It kind of lets you kind of be an autopilot, kind of jumpstart where the goals that you're trying to achieve, and then you could really execute those goals with precision. That's what I want to do.
So for people who don't know who Hassan Phills is, who are you? Who's the man sitting in front of me?
Oh, who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm a stand-up comedian, stand-up guy.
Nice.
Yeah. Stand-up comedian, stand-up guy, actor, writer, philanthropist. I feel like this is a podcast where I could say philanthropist and people will like believe me.
You could say whatever you want as long as it's true.
I mean, I have Twitter. But nah, man, I think I do a lot of things. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hustler. You know, I think that word was created first before entrepreneur. First it was hustler, then entrepreneur. And then, yeah, man.
How long you been doing the comedy?
I've been doing comedy 8, almost 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did it start finally being recognized?
maybe in like my third, like 3 or 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago is when I was, maybe started doing stand-up comedy full time. And then when I started doing stand-up comedy full time, it took me maybe like a year to notice that I've been doing stand-up comedy full time. I just stopped working the other jobs that I was doing. But mind you, like my means of living weren't crazy. I don't have like an immense amount of responsibility. My mother, she takes care of herself. I don't have any kids. All I really had to cover was rent and edibles, like food for me to eat, rations, and so I was good. I was like, holy, I'm actually killing it for myself, at least to my
well, yeah, like you're able to sustain yourself based on generating income in the field that you're aspiring to make a career out of. What's been the hardest part about being a stand-up comedian? I've had on a number of comedians, from Russell Peters, and then the biggest thread between all of them is that people don't really realize how hard it is to be a comedian, to go up there, put on a bit and hope that people will laugh. Otherwise you're just kind of standing up there almost vulnerable to everybody.
Yeah, it's so true. I totally dig that other comics don't know how hard it is, and likewise I don't. It's because the only thing I know how to do really well. And yeah, like it's I think the hardest part about it is the process and the journey. I think the identity aspect is somewhat people overlook. I think stand-up comedy embodies a lot of like self-awareness. Anything really in life does, like, should embody how well you should know yourself, whether like this is the path, like from university too. The idea that like, oh, like this guidance counselor is going to tell me which job that I'm going to do. My parents are going to influence me which program to get into. When deep down inside, I'm like, I know I don't want to do any of these programs. I want to do this. And that's where I was like, okay, my self-awareness drew me to drop out of school, to quit some jobs, to leave some relationships, to, subside from, a lot of things.
Yeah. So. When your team and I were chatting about having you on, they mentioned something interesting to me. They said, ask you about your relationship to money.
Oh.
Why should I ask you about that? What is it about money? Is it sort of, how did it affect your childhood growing up? How does it affect you now as an entrepreneur, as a comedian, as an actor, all those different things?
My relationship with money is it's been a funny balance. I think like it's because I grew up in priority neighborhoods in Toronto, metro housing, my relationship with money has come from like a scarcity mindset.
And metro housing, just for anyone who's listening or watching, basically means like government housing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, government housing. And I had this like scarcity mindset, like, oh, if somebody else has it and I don't have it, that means they're taking it from me, right, almost. And like, oh, where is it going to come from? I need to like hoard it, or it was weird. But then also that was the environment. But also I heard this story the other day because I ran into an old friend of mine, and my mother, even though we grew up in these kitchens, my mom has the scarcity mindset, but also doesn't at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it's like something about her being from back home in East Africa, Djibouti. My friend told me the other day, I was at an iftar, and it was just like a reunion with all my friends that like live in this neighborhood. And one of my friends goes, Hassan, how's your mom? I said, my mom's great. She goes, one thing I miss is running into your mom when I was in the hood. I would see her and it would just make my day. And I said, oh, that's so sweet. He goes, but ask me why. I said, why? He goes, because she'd give me $5 every single time.
So even if she didn't really have all that much, she was still trying to give.
Exactly.
And is that part of why philanthropy is such an important part of your life today?
Totally. I like the philanthropy because it's so allegorical. Like it's like for time you could as time goes on you can kind of unpack the layers behind either like stories, messages. Like as much as I even like telling stories, I love hearing them, man. So cool.
What was it about growing? Well, let me reframe that actually. What don't people understand about life in government housing?
I think the scariest thing about growing up in government housing is like this is your home, but from the moment that you're in, like you're brought up in this place, your goal is to move out. You know, imagine this was like your family home and this is like, oh, I'm gonna inherit this for life. But the idea that, you know, this is where you grow up, but then from the moment you kind of get the idea of like where you're at, you're like, yeah, I gotta move out. My goal is to get out and get my mother out of here, my family out of here. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like sad, because as I've traveled around the world now and I've made other friends, they've just like, that's never been a mission of theirs. You know, so if you grow up in the hood, your mission is like, get out.
Was it a rough upbringing?
In spurts, you know, I never felt like it was entirely tough because I wasn't going through it by myself. You know, if I grew up in a single parent family with just my mother, but I also knew
Just the two of you?
yeah, just my mother and I, but I also knew like 5 other people who were doing that. Some had siblings, some didn't. I was like, even though I have multiple siblings from like my father's other partners, I still grew up as an only child, but I was raised by my community. So I was like, oh, I never really felt alone. Like, yeah.
Can I ask about the relationship with your father?
Yeah, for sure.
Is it positive? Is it negative? Does it exist?
It's there. You know, it's not like entirely like copacetic. Him and I communicate here and there. It's more like a pen pal, or like but what with WhatsApp, you know? You know?
I've never heard someone describe a relationship as a pen pal like that.
That's what it is, really. Like he's we haven't spoken in years, and
Does that bother you?
Not really.
Okay.
Now there was a time where we hadn't spoken in years to each other in years, but then with the internet and also like my grievances with it, like I've never had any animosity towards my father just because my mother never did. Or I feel like some other parents would be like, they'll teach you to not like this guy that, you know, who's not around. But my mother never instilled that in me. Like at one point I tried to be like, yo, F that guy, you know, he's not here. My mom said, don't ever talk about your father like that. And I said, why are you defending him? He's not even here. She goes, I love him. I said, why do you love him though? He's not here. She goes, because at the end of the day, he gave me you. And then you hear that like shit as a kid, you just go, so, you know, you want to have that hate, but you can't. It's not there. So my mom really nullified that. So I had no like grievances with the guy not being around. That's why actually now having him in my life via PayPal or what? Via WhatsApp, PayPal too. You know, you know, it's
what a powerful message that your mom taught you at such a young age. How old were you when that?
I was middle school, maybe like 12.
It's a very impressionable young man.
Yeah, still am.
Of course. A young man growing up in a single home, despite having what sounds like an incredible mother, being surrounded by other children from various types of homes, government housing, you know, that can really change how a young man sees the world. Can grow up very angry. But you've chosen to make people laugh. You've chosen to help other people. Why is all of that so important to you? But were you just lucky, or was there work involved for you to not go down a different path?
It's a bit of both, man. I think the more harder you work, the more lucky you get. And my mom allowed me to like work a lot and then find the things that I was passionate about. One thing growing up early was basketball. I loved playing ball. And there was a time where I got cut from my elementary school team, and I got very sad. And because I had trained all summer, I was like, yeah, I can't wait to. It was my middle school basketball team. I was like, I trained all summer. I'm going to make this team. I'm going to hang out with my friends. We're going to talk about the season. I'm going to go to high school. I'm going to make the NBA. Like, you know, when you start playing all the all the milestones like decades in advance, I'm like, yeah, this is how I'm going to make it to the NBA. And then already the first plan was to make the middle school team. That didn't work. I was like, damn. And I went home and I cried. I was telling my, whoa. She goes, come on, man, take some initiative. You think that's the only place you could play basketball? I said, I thought. She goes, you could just look someplace else. School is not the only place you could play basketball. You could play in a park, you could play in a community center, you could play in a house league. I was like, house league? So I Googled it. I found a house league. And when I found the house league, I told my mom, I said, this is like $800.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. You know, single parent family,
Yep.
the whole shebang. I was like, I knew it was $300, but I tried to like upsell it to my mom before. You know, I said,
You were a hustler from day one.
I'm a hustler. I said, oh man, they got refs. They got a jersey with your name on the back, and they take stats. She goes, how much is it? I said, they got refs. How much is it? I said, they got jerseys with your name on the back. How much is it? They take stats. She goes, come on, man. I said, it's $800. She goes, oof. $800. You know, it's tough times. It's just me and you. I'd have to pick up like extra shifts in order to make that happen, which means it would be on Saturdays. The league plays on Saturdays. I wouldn't be able to come watch you play. Are you cool with that? And I was like, yeah, do that shit.
You just wanted to play.
I'm just trying to make it to the league. And my mom did it, man. And she thugged it out. And so like every time I went there and I'm seeing like my friends with their parents or
that parent,
it didn't bother me per se. Sometimes like it was though, because I still like, they knew what my mom was about. So nobody ever gave me like a hard time about it. And also like, I also didn't want that pressure. I like that. I actually was really cool with like being alone. And I found a lot of, I found a lot of confidence in being able to like mobilize outside and self-aware outside of my house.
So you had to grow up very young.
Mm-hmm.
Given, you know, a lot of these things were happening to you. It sounds like you just had to figure it out. You didn't really have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Has that helped you along the way now?
Oh,
as
yeah.
you move through your career?
For sure. I'm like, I guess when it has its consequences, you know. I like to, if there's a problem, I'm like, yo, let's get it done. Let's figure it out. Throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. That's how we get to the end goal, really. And then I have some friends whom I've worked with, some I haven't, but ask for my help. And I'm not maybe the most supportive, you know? Support is like a marathon, man. Like you have to, like, they don't actually want you to fix their problem. They want you to support them in this situation that they're in. Where I was like, yo, we could just fix it right now. But they also want to like grieve in the circumstances. And that's something I probably lack, maybe like patience for that. I'm like, yo, let's just figure it out. Let's go. That's me.
And the comedy career, I want to dive into that a little more because I mentioned earlier, you know, when you go up on stage and you're delivering a bit and it doesn't land, you know, you got to continue. You got to continue to put on a show for people. When was the last time you bombed a stand-up skit?
I bomb like every time I'm trying like new stuff.
Okay.
But that's only in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And once you understand that that's the process, you kind of like cope with it a lot more.
How do you cope with that kind of failure?
Familiarity. Once you do it enough times, you're like, oh, okay, well, that happened. It's kind of like being in the gym by yourself and you're shooting and there's no other rebounder. You miss or make the shot, you're gonna have to go get your rebound and shoot it again. And that's
a good
how
analogy. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
And where are you hoping this comedy goes? Like, is this something that you actually want to pursue full time? Like, this is your core thing, or is this one of the many hustles?
This is the only thing I'm good at, man. I think like, man, I think very rarely do, honestly, seriously, I think very rarely do young black men find something that they're good at and they take it and they run with it. And I've been very lucky to find that thing, and I'm going to keep going.
Why? Why, when you say it's very rare for young black men to find their thing, why?
I mean, you're influenced by a lot. I think young black men are influenced by a lot, like media, society, and then next thing you know, you don't even want to try. You know, the fear of trying I think it's the greatest threshold of like, oh, this guy's trying to be something. Like, the moment you start trying, I saw it when I was young. I remember one day I was doing like my math homework on the bus, because I was like, I had a lot of respect for my math teacher, because he was just he took time to get to know me. I told him math wasn't my strongest subject, but I really, at the school I was going to, they only offered applied classes, and I wanted to play basketball at a high level, which was a university. So I had to take academic courses. So in order for me to get even into the academic courses, I had to excel in applied courses. And math was my weakest subject. And at the time, my GPA was mad low, so I'm locked in. I'm trying to figure it out. And I was on the bus doing my homework, because my math teacher was taking the time to kind of like tutor me even after his class, and I just didn't want to show up
unprepared. Yeah.
And my boys were like, yo, this guy's trying to be a mathematician, you know? That's what, yo, this guy wants to be a freaking Einstein on the bus. This guy's you know,
it wasn't the cool thing to do.
It wasn't a cool, it doesn't look cool when you're trying something, right? But then when you achieve those things, people will then turn and they're like, oh, like, I knew it. I knew you were going to be this, or I'm proud of you. But it's like,
what message does that send to young men in general, to young people in general? Like, if you're a young person growing up today and you're trying something in the age of social media, where when you're trying something, also most of the time you're trying it online, and you're getting criticized by people. There's a lot of people that shut down their aspirations or whatever they're trying to do because of the criticism. What do you say to them? As someone who experienced it in person, not even just online, what would you say to those people?
Just keep trying, man. Keep trying. Aspirations are lit. That's what I will tell them. Aspirations are lit. To have aspirations to do anything that might be unconventional to like either your family or your parents, you know, it's okay as long as you kind of like see the vision. I've had the vision in my head for mad long, and I'm not good at like convincing people. That's what I hate the most. Convincing people that like this is going to work or something's going to work, because I'm not one to ask for help.
Why? Is it because you think that people won't help you?
No, because if I ask for help, then I might, like, some people might think you owe them some down the road, and that kind of...
Is it possible you're asking the wrong people?
Definitely. But that's like the trial and error too. Like, you're gonna at least... I think it's great to keep asking for help, but asking the wrong people, it always sucks when you're getting help from the wrong people. But that's like you also gotta like help yourself first before you start helping people, I think. Because, do you know what I mean? How could you pour into my cup when your cup is empty?
Agreed. Yeah.
You know?
What kind of circle of friends do you have?
I have a great group of friends.
How many people?
My friends are like my board of directors. You know, like they keep everything. We talk about things from like, I have friends from like who live in like who embody like the finance sector of life and the humor sector of life. My childhood friends, from like people who kind of just care about my well-being and my future, as I care about theirs as well. So it's not like an unhealthy exchange.
Right.
But yeah, I have really good friends, alhamdulillah, man. I think like, yeah, it's been super.
Why is that important? Why is it important to have a good circle of people around you?
Proximity is everything. You know, if you have one person in your life that's like influential, or if you're hanging out with 3 rappers, you know, you're most likely to become the 5th. You know, same way as like one of my friends, great credit score. And then I asked him, I said, yo, how'd you get your credit like that, man? What's going on here? You know, his boy told him. I said, yo, let me introduce you to your boy. And then, yeah, now he's telling me, oh, okay, now we're getting our credit. Now together we're getting our credit up. I like it.
So is that the secret solution to empowering, to go back to your earlier story, young black man, is creating better examples, but also a sense of community, people who are lifting each other up, not just themselves?
There's a lot of like, I think what needs to happen in the community is dialogue. As long as there's like a healthy dialogue about these things, then they become way less taboo. And then information and data and conversation makes everything, will make things thrive for us.
Why isn't there that dialogue? What's the barrier?
I'm not sure. Maybe it could be the taboo
of just talking
about it. You know, pocket watching could be a bit weird, or being too nosy, or you know, like what's going on. But yeah, I think it'll change. I think it'll change with time.
What kind of philanthropy work do you do?
I actually don't do philanthropy. I just talk shit.
But I've seen you team up with some organizations too.
Yes. So I've been working with Muslim Welfare Canada.
Okay.
And in terms of like, I wouldn't say if it's philanthropy, but they definitely we cater to the communities, Muslim and non-Muslim, all Canadians here. We do food banks, meal baskets, all across Canada, shelters, the whole shebang. And that's like more so for the heart, you know. It's like somebody asked me, or like a young kid came to me at one of the food basket drives that we were doing, and he's like, yo, it's so cool that you're doing this, like you're showing up and you don't even have to be here. Like there's big dogs who don't even do this. And I thought about it, or someone asked me another question. I can't remember what it was, but it was along the lines of are you happy with the way you're giving back to the community now? And I am very pleased. I think like charity is like a practice muscle. Like if I don't start doing it now while I have very little, then there's no chance I'm going to do it when I have a lot.
What was the takeaway from that question the young man asked you?
I felt like I was like, at least I'm doing it. I felt like I felt proud of myself to be there, you know? And the idea of like you know how like in television, people are always like, oh, I need representation. You know, I need someone to see somebody that looks like me on TV. And I always thought that was cool. But like once you get older and you're like in the industry, you're kind of like, this person's still just an actor. You know, this person's pursuing their plight. It doesn't really necessarily mean, like when somebody says, oh, I want to be an actor, and they say, why? It's because I want to, there's never been anybody that looks like me. That's not really enough to me. Like representation needs to be like, I think like the guy driving the bus is, you know, that's sick. The person walking their kids to the school, that's cool. You know, people supporting in their community, who might be your relative. Those people are way more. Those are the much better representation than maybe just like this actor. That's to me, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a real one.
That's an interesting take on it. I don't think I've heard it thought out that way before.
I'll tell you a story. When I went to Sudan in like 2020, there was a day where I was hanging out with my boy's uncle, and it's not like a situation where, you know, I'm gonna hang out with him for maybe like an hour or two, run some errands, and that's it. You're spending like the whole day with this guy. Very respectable man in the community. And I'm running all types of errands with him, like going to his businesses, seeing his friends, seeing his family. And we're driving all across the land from Omdurman, from Khartoum, which is like, again, just major cities in Sudan, and to Sheikh At-Taib, which is like another, like in the village, the outskirts, Bedouins. And in this day, and I've done multiple days with this guy, but in this time that I spent with my boy's uncle, I saw the way he engaged with strangers, the way he engaged with his family, engaged with his kids, his wife, his friends, his employees, picking up random people along the road just to take them to the next village or whatever. And I was like, and this is the first time in my life, like, I mean, I've never kicked it with my father long enough to even do anything like that. And when I saw him do this, I'm like, yo, this is representation. This is like how you
show up in the world.
It's how you show up. You learn a thing or two, and you see it. And you know what's the best thing too? I saw his son, and his son was probably like 10 or 12 years old, mimicking his father. And not anything like he was like a 12-year-old mimicking an adult, but you could just like, yo, this kid is grown. He's sitting at the table conversing with adults, you know, no iPad. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a big problem, especially in North America.
And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that is like, that was one of the most beautiful things that I saw. I'm like, oh, okay, this is, and I saw how his character impacted even the other men in my friend's family, you know?
He led by example. What was the biggest lesson for you after you spent that day with him?
It gave me like, it made me a bit like aspirational too. Like I would like to be like this guy when I grow up, you know? I would love to have this many kids. I would love to have you know, this impact in my community.
Do you feel the man sitting across from me right now is at that level, like your boy's father?
Oh, no chance. But we're working towards it. That's not, I would say no chance, but you know, definitely working towards it.
You're not there yet.
I'm not there yet. But I'll also like, I'll never admit it if I'm there yet. Maybe I will when I get there. Who knows? But I'm extremely driven towards it for sure.
You said, you know, you want to have kids at some point.
Yeah.
Growing up without your father present for you and learning everything that you did from your, what seems like a very powerful lady, your mom. what's something that you want to make sure is instilled in your kids that maybe you never got from your father? How do you want to show up as a dad? Because I've had a number of conversations on this podcast and with good friends of mine whose fathers were never really in their lives. They may have sometimes even physically been in their lives, but not really emotionally in their lives. And they've commented on a number of occasions about how when they have children one day, they want to show up differently because they want to break that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to show up for your kids one day?
It sounds like I'm setting the bar mad low, but I just want to be as present as possible.
Oh, that's not low at all.
Okay, good. Yeah, being as present as possible. The way I'm like maintaining it, or the way I kind of like envision it in my head, is I want to go as hard in like this experience that I don't have with them at this moment, as hard as I can now, so I could have the time and the grace to kind of be present while I'm there. I also want them to see me work. I don't want them to see me just like I want to be retired and have kids, like just
you want to model for them.
Yeah, that'd be lit. That's crazy.
One of the central themes of the conversations that we have on this podcast is around mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It's a topic that comes up regularly and often, particularly for men of color, men from diverse communities, where, similar to the conversation piece we were having earlier, there's a lot of taboo around the subject. There's a lot of things that we don't talk about. Being a man like you that comes from your part of the world, grew up in government housing, had that scarcity mindset. You talked already about the fact that dialogue is not really a thing yet in your community or in the various communities. Where does mental health sit in all of that?
Mental health is mental health is important, very important to me. I used to think it was a joke. I'll be honest. I used to think it was a joke thing. Like
I didn't even know the words existed until like 7 years ago.
Because I used to make not fun. I think mental health was my allegiance is to two things. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The truth and what's funny. And what's funny is often true. So what I thought was funny was mental health. I was like, mental health is funny. It's not like it's like I thought of it as a joke.
Okay.
But then the truth kicked in. I was like, okay, people are really going through it. I could be going through it. Maybe I am going through it. I don't even know. And so the truth kicked in.
Were you?
Yeah.
In what way?
Like an identity crisis of some kind, of being an ambitious young guy from Toronto, of Caribbean, East African descent, trying to figure out this comedy thing. Depression is not like something you could generally talk about. I don't think I've suffered from depression, but I've seen others have. I probably have lulls of like, I'm sure maybe I had depression. I just never even be like, yo, this is serious. But I just locked in and I said, you know what? I'm going to go figure it out till I'm not upset about what this thing is. And like I said, I used to make fun about therapy because I had a friend who, remember in 2021 or 2022 when everybody and their mother was talking about therapy and going to therapy, like if you could buy stock in therapists, like it was going, like you'd be rich, if you jump the curve. I thought it was so funny. One of my friends had started going to therapy and I was applauding it. I said, yo, I'm happy for you. This is cool. Upside is, he's getting better. He's happy. Downside, not as fun to hang out with anymore. Not a vibe. But nonetheless, I was still, because that's my boy, I'm happy for him. And then he did this thing where he's like, yo, you should go to therapy.
Did you?
I did maybe down the road, but you don't tell me that. You can't just tell me, yo, go to therapy. I said, nah, I'm good. He goes, yeah, but you could get better. And I said, what if better is not what's best for me? And then he goes, oh.
Can better not be best for you?
Sometimes you need sometimes you need to be cooked in the head, man, for a little bit. Just that's what seasoning the chicken is. You can't just be using salt and pepper. So you gotta throw some cayenne, some Cajun.
Do you not think that,
and let it marinate?
Well, yeah, obviously you want to let that chicken marinate.
Mm-hmm.
But do you not think that dealing with whatever it is that's had that chip on your shoulder effect, do you not think that dealing with that would actually help you become even better at what you're already doing?
Mm-hmm.
You have a better relationship to the thing that's driving you?
Mm-hmm.
So you said that eventually, not right away, but eventually you did.
Not right away. Right away, I was like, yo, who's this Jehovah therapist telling me to go to therapy, man? I don't want to do that. And then, but also it's expensive,
Well, that's another barrier
that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think I made a video online where I was telling this story, and I was like, yeah, my friend's telling me to go to therapy. I made a bad joke. I made a really bad joke. I said, well, it's not a bad joke. I think it's still funny. I will never apologize for it. But I said, if you go to therapy, doesn't mean you're better than me. Your grades in mental health are low. So you see a tutor every week. I said that, and people were upset.
Why?
They were like, you need therapy.
I agree that most people will need some form of therapy, but also therapy is as simple as having a conversation.
Totally. Someone said, oh, if you're, the classic comment, if you're broke, then just say that. And I was like, yeah, I'm broke, but I'm not broken. How about that? Like, I was my defense mechanism is humor.
It's comedy, yeah.
Super good. If you're broke, then just say that. I said, I'm broke, but I'm not broken. What is up? But fast forward like 2 years later, as I was like kind of just growing.
You went to therapy?
I went to therapy.
What made you decide to do that? What had to happen for you to find yourself sitting in that room?
I found I was just getting too big for my boots. And there's just things that I kind of wanted to talk about with somebody. Maybe some perspective. And I think the truth, to circle back to what was the truth, was I knew that to be a great comedian, you need to be self-aware. Mm-hmm. And my allegiance to myself was like, I'm going to become the best comedian I could be. So if I'm to do so, I have to hug the truth. And the truth is that, I needed therapy, and now there's like a plethora of humor in that. Mind you, I'm still not like a Jehovah therapist, but hey guys, you should go. I think like when the time is right, you'll figure it out. You can gauge it yourself, but just know that it's cool to talk to somebody.
It is.
And you can't even
nothing wrong with it.
You can't also do that with like your partner as well. Your partner
can or can't?
I don't think so.
How come? I disagree, but I want to know why.
Really, therapy with your partner?
Well, I'm going to add some context to that.
Okay.
But you seem very adamant like you can't talk to your partner.
No, I think you can, but like you can't give the workload a therapist should bear to your partner.
Okay, I agree with that.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a time and place. I think you can have very raw and intimate and vulnerable conversations with your partner because that's supposed to be the closest person to you, the person who will see you at your truth. But I agree with you that your partner should not bear the responsibility of all of your past traumas, all of your unresolved things that you would typically go to a professional for. Because your partner, unless they are a therapist, and even then there should still be some barrier, your partner is not a therapist. They're not trained. They could listen. They might be able to support you by saying, I'm here for you, maybe even offer some guidance and advice. But for the most part, I agree with you. You should be seeing a professional for that reason. It's the same way if you have a cold or the flu or anything like that. Just because your partner is taking care of you while you're not feeling great doesn't mean that they're a doctor.
Totally.
So when you went to therapy, how did you feel afterwards?
I feel lit. Like, it feels good. Like, I feel very confident in myself. Not that I already am. Pretty sure of myself and like the man I aspire to be. But it's also, you have to find the right therapist. My therapist, she's awesome. She's Jamaican. You know, she's black. You know, you can't just pick like.
Why is that important?
100%. There's like undertones that just things that go without saying. You just kind of like understand, which makes the sessions more like cohesive. You know, they flow well.
There's a nuanced understanding of things that you might be dealing with.
Totally, the nuance is so important. And like, she's from Toronto as well, and kind of guess where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You know, if I have to like preface everything, and it kind of like.
Do you think that perhaps the next generation of young men growing up in government housing could really benefit from some form of therapy at a young age, as instead of waiting, let's say, until they're older?
Yes and no. I think I'm gonna use this analogy. I think like young men just need to see the ball go in the hoop a lot more often, meaning that they need to know that they could score in life and win in life. I think from earlier on, things just in this society, things are so theoretical and less like practical. So like meaning you don't really.
They just need to see some wins.
They need to see some wins, man. And like, where are the wins at? Like, I applaud before. If I never got into stand-up comedy, I think I would have loved doing like a trade or something like that. You know. But then the idea of doing a trade to my relatives in the very beginning were kind of like, no, man, go to university. You got to get a good job and you'll get a career. You'll build this and you work less harder because you're using your head. Do you know how much money people are making in the trades? It's insane. You know what I mean? I know so many more engineers that are unemployed right now because they're either overqualified or no experience. You know what I mean? But if you're working in the trades right now, you're a young guy and you get into the trades, applied. Everything is applied. You could work, you could make sure you can gain the experience. And the experience of seeing yourself win is so important from a financial standpoint, from a life standpoint. Like, you shot your shot, miss or make, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna try again. And I think a lot of young men are taking their shots so late in life that they're like almost scared too. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the difference between somebody going through their first breakup in like their late 20s as opposed to the early teens. You go to your first breakup in your early teens, you're kind of like, oh my God, this sucks, life was worse. And then you kind of go through it again in like 21, 25. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. Someone in like 30 years old going through a breakup, first one.
It's rough. Yeah.
Don't know how to process it.
So basically what you're saying is going through more of these actual life experiences at an earlier age. A lot of life experiences that they otherwise probably don't get because of the circumstances that they live in.
Totally.
I want to ask you one more question here. You talked about self-awareness quite a bit. You talked about sort of growing into the man you want to become, surrounding yourself with the right people. I like to do this exercise with my guests where I ask them to visualize being able to speak to their younger self, that 8, 9, 10-year-old version of you. You walk into your old house and there's 10-year-old Hassan sitting there. What advice would you give him? What would you say to him that he needed to hear that he was never told?
I'm stumped, man. I don't even know what I would tell myself. Because I also lived like such a regretless life. I was like, everything that happened, I was like, this was actually good for me. Maybe it's because I have like an allegorical mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, this sucked then, but maybe it'll make sense later. I would just say, man, just keep trying. Just keep trying, man. And he did. This is the best part. I'm here. I'm literally, I keep doing that, man. I say, man, maybe avoid a few barbers. They cooked your hairline. There's some barbers that cooked your hairline, man. Avoid those guys. Damn. I'll probably tell myself maybe like, don't be in your head as much. I'm not an overthinker at all. I don't live in that world, but there's times maybe in my adolescence where I overthought things, and I thought I had to like be everywhere to be everything I wanted to be, but I'm not really. I like to. Yeah, man, I really am proud of myself so far. And I understand that everything that guy did before is the reason why I'm here now. And I'm excited for like what this guy's going to do 10 years down the road, man. 10 years, 20 years. Yeah, I'm very appreciative and grateful for every mistake I've made and every triumph I've had, and I really hope there's gonna be more of them. I don't know if that was the answer you're looking for.
It's a good answer,
but shit, man, it is what it is, man.
I appreciate you coming through.
No, I appreciate you having me. I was thinking about that the first question you asked me about my relationship with money, and it's like it hasn't changed anything. It does. I think money doesn't really change. It just allows you to do the things that they just facilitate the things that you want to do that makes you happy. That's it, really. Like but at the same time, what you want in life is no different. I really like. I love pizza. If someone asks me like what's my favorite Western dish, like North American dish, it's just pizza, because it's the only thing that's like very communal in this part of the world, where like we could all eat from the same plate. Whereas like I'm like of like East African descent, where most of the food is like either communal. Yeah. We all eat off one plate together, Your mom is taking the food with her hands and like you don't know real love until your mom sticks her whole hand in your mouth to feed you like a bird. You know what I mean? I didn't use a fork until I was 14. You know what I mean? And so when I think about that, I was like, no matter how down or bad I've ever been in life, God has always afforded me a slice of pizza, and I've been happy.
Incredible. Brother, thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing your story. I'm excited to see where this next 10 years takes you.
Sure.
I appreciate you coming through.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much, everyone.